Come on, let's go. The police are coming. 1 minute, Zoogie.
And I'll smash your face for you, your blockos.
We always help our friends, don't we?
My name is Luke Top Secret, and I am a YouTube reviewer. Here, I like to talk about all sorts of media, ones that make you laugh, cry, give you nightmares, and make you rage. So, sit on down and enjoy the show, for you're watching Luke Top Secret. I have always liked to consider movies and video games to be pieces of art, many of which we can look back upon and consider to be a true masterpiece, while there's others that we question. We question how they make us feel. We don't agree with what they're doing, but we just build our own sense of feelings for these things. Some of these feelings cause us to feel so triggered that we want to burn that media to the ground and just wipe from existence. One of these movies that comes around quite a bit nowadays is A Clockwork Orange, which is arguably one of the most controversial movies of all time due to its grotesque scenes and humor. And well, it happens to be one of my favorite movies of all time. First things first, the main title screen, although so simple anyone can make it at home, it comes off so eerily spooky. It is here we meet our main protagonist, Alex, played by Malcolm McDowell, who you may know from, I don't know, Home Alone 5. All jokes aside, we learn right off the bat from the very first scene that Alex is a guy you do not want to mess with. The camera slowly pans out from his face while he remains direct eye contact, looking right into your soul. It's freaky. Now Alex, for lack of a better term, is mentally disturbed. He has these so-called druids which follow him around, and together they cause mayhem on the innocent people of the city. The first victim that we bear witness to, although we are led to believe there be many more prior to this incident, is just your average homeless man who's just minding his own business, who is helplessly beat up brutally by Alex and his druids just for shits and giggles. Before we have time to process that brutal incident, we are cut straight to the next one, which is arguably just as bad. This is going to be a very hard one to show on YouTube, so I will just say that there are 6 guys, a naked woman, and a mattress. You should know what they're getting up to. Luckily, the naked lady manages to escape before any more harm can come to her. But Alex and his druids and the 6 other guys, they get into an all-out war, which is brutal, but has got to be one of the best fight scenes in a movie, period. It's just slapstick comedy-ish and just bonkers. Alex and his druids, they escape before the cops arrive, and this is a very cool green screen effect. I don't know whether I should laugh or just appreciate how cheap it looks. It's great. After breaking every single road violation that possibly could be violated, we are taken to the next victim, and this is the brutalest one yet. And this scene, oh my brothers, is where the whole controversialness about the movie kicks in. This scene I cannot show on YouTube, so I'll just have to say it as nicely and humane as possible, just so I can get through it. But it is not the faintest for hearts. It's brutal. So as we all know, every victim that we've seen so far are just innocent people who were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Well, these people were just plain innocents. They were at home doing absolutely nothing wrong. By the way, the home is just conveniently lit up by a sign that says home. That's quite funny. But anyway, Alex, posing as needing medical attention, manages to get the young lady at the door to let him in the house, and the druids follow pursuit. And they go to... Yeah, so this was a very, very hard scene for me to watch, and it is just as hard for me to even freaking talk about. Now, I could just wing it and just say what happened, but I feel like that's not being true to myself. So, and I could just ignore it as well, but Apparently, there are a lot of people in this world that believe ignoring that this activity takes place is just as bad as doing the activity, which I don't really know where I sit on that. But basically, I can't ignore it and I can't talk about it, so I'll just put it this way. They do something that is illegal and very, very naughty. We've now basically come to the point in the movie where we as an audience begin to ask ourselves a whole lot of questions. Questions that we have the right to be asking ourselves. We know for a fact that something is wrong with Alex. He either needs to be locked up or get some kind of medical attention. And in a weird way, we kinda get both. Alex's parents begin to have their suspicions about him, that he's doing things he's not supposed to be doing. So they get this guy who I guess is some kind of doctor and starts asking a bunch of questions. And this begins the downfall of his reign as being this superior being in the city, as he's now in the public eye. The Druids start to have second thoughts about this whole gang they're in. They either want out or at least a new leader, and rightfully so. They're going down a really dark path. Alex lets them believe that all will be well, and they start to have a nicely stroll down this path, where he then turns on them and it gets a little bit bloody. And this is another great scene. The music, which I can't play here because YouTube copyright laws, is great. It's very light-hearted, but the scene itself is not at all. So it's this mixed feeling of happiness and, I guess you would say, disgust. After that, having a little splash around in the pool, Alex sits down his brothers again and has a nice warm-hearted chat to them. He basically just reminds them who's boss and to not mess with him, and either you're in or you're dead. The gang then decide to go on out and find another victim, their eyes being on this crazy cat lady who knows how to yoga. Alex decides to go in by himself while his Groods wait outside, and we get this very uncomfortable scene where he dances around this poor lady with this gigantic penis. Alex, not knowing what the term just the tip means, decides to smash the lady's face in with the tip of the dick. And it's at this point where he hears cop sirens. He knows he's in trouble. So, in a panic, he decides to run on outside to his Groods, where they rightfully turn on him. Alex is then arrested and is then sent for questioning in police custody. Now, this is where, my brothers, you can either say that he deserves everything that's coming to him, or he's probably taken a little bit too hard. Either way, just keep those thoughts coming. So, the evidence of all of Alex's mishaps, and especially the murder of the innocent yoga crazy cat lady, puts him into a prison where he is referred to not as Alex, but a number. He is just another number in this sicko world that is prison. It is in prison that Alex begins to have some kind of change of heart. He wants to convert to goodness. So he speaks to the priest about some kind of weird scientific testing that can make you good. And we either believe that he really wants to be good or is just trying to find a way to escape. Either way, he manages to convince these people that he is up for the job of being a test subject for this very sick, torturous treatment. And we have now reached another very disturbing scene. And believe me, my brothers, we start to ask ourselves even more questions. Believe me when I say that this is a very important and very powerful scene. It basically defines who we are as human beings. We watch Alex undergo this torturous treatment. He has his eyes pried open and is forced to watch all this disturbing imagery on the screen in front of him while all these scientist dudes in the background watch. The reason why this scene is so disturbing is that we can't help but feel like we're the ones stuck in the chair like Alex with his eyes pried open. We are watching some very disturbing imagery. We are seeing scientists who are smiling and smirking at what they're created. They like seeing Alex in pain. They begin to feel like they're doing the right thing, as Alex really does have some kind of change in heart. And it's not because of the imagery per se, it's the music that is put alongside the disturbing images. Once the treatment has concluded, Alex is put on stage and presented like a trophy. They demonstrate that Alex no longer gets to use his sinister urges, because when he gets those urges, he gets sick and basically drops to his knees. He's all weak, broken and helpless. It is while Alex is on stage that we see what is probably the most important scenes of the movie, and it just happens to be another scene that I can't really show. So, a lady wearing nothing but her underwear is put on stage next to Alex. Here we see him have these urges to grab her, but once he tries to, he gets sick and once again drops to his knees. What makes this scene so important is that we are seeing Alex sick while the guys in the audience are smiling. They like what they see. So my brothers, this concludes Alex's treatment, if that's what we want to call it. The result is that we now have a man who is now broken. He no longer has his primal instincts. In other words, the treatment worked. So things are beginning to look up for Alex. He's undergone this treatment, he's no longer evil, but things back at home could not be anything but worse. He arrives home only to find out that he can no longer consider it as home because his parents have kicked him out and have already replaced him. And here we see Alex's treatment in the works. He has these urges to punch his replacement in the face, but he can't bring himself to it. He's feeling sick. Any urge that Alex has to cause someone harm just results to him being sick. Doesn't matter if it's in the right or wrong, he just can't do it. Alex has now reached his low point. He is homeless, just walking the streets, having these feelings and mixed emotions whether or not what he did was worth it. He is even having suicidal thoughts. Now that's dark. In the middle of his suicidal thoughts, a homeless man approaches him asking for some money. Now Alex, who doesn't have much money to begin with, happily gives the homeless man some loose change. But unfortunately, fate would have it that this is the same man that Alex beat up in the beginning of the film. And guess what? He wants revenge. He happily gives Alex a taste of his own medicine, even gets some of his friends in on the action and start to beat him up. Luckily for Alex though, the cops show up and they push all the homeless people back, letting Alex breathe for a moment. But unfortunately the pain hasn't ended yet. It turns out the cops are actually two of Alex's ex-druids, and guess what? They also want in on that revenge action. They take Alex to the middle of nowhere and force his head under some water while beating him senselessly. They don't care if Alex is sorry or not. As far as they're concerned, they've been waiting for this for a long time. This was a long time coming to Alex. They just can't help themselves. They are so happy to give Alex some pain. Beaten, Alex makes his way to the only place he can consider home, that mysterious building with the word home on the front. He knocks on the door and the residents of the house let him in. We see yet another familiar face, the poor guy in the wheelchair that was beat up and watched his wife get abused. Alex does recognize him from that incident, but luckily for him, the guy in the wheelchair just doesn't recognize him because he was wearing a mask the entire time. So the guy takes him in and cares for him, even offering him a bath. It is while Alex is taking a bath that he makes a mistake that would nearly cost him his life. You see, when Alex was here last, he was beating up the poor man and his wife while singing a song, and that song was Singing in the Rain, which happens to be the same song he's singing right now in Bath, while the other guy is hearing. And this causes some kind of PTSD in him. He remembers everything. He now knows who this guy is in his house taking a bath. He is the same man that destroyed his life, and of course he also wants some revenge. The man locks Alex upstairs in a room and plays some very distinctive music. The same music that was used in Alex's torture treatment. And this really drives him mad. So mad to the point that he jumps out the window as an attempt of suicide to end all the pain. He just couldn't take it anymore. We are then teleported to a hospital where we see a body in the bed, covered in bandages and casts. And of course, it is Alex, who survived his suicidal attempt. He starts to wake up, which alerts the nurse who's in the same room, who was up to, let's just say, the old in out with some other doctor. We then get a very quick scene where we learn that the media has gotten a hold of Alex's story. As far as they were concerned, they tortured this poor man, led by the government. Alex's parents actually decide to show up as well. This is quite confusing. At first, they didn't want anything to do with him. Now, they want him back, and they want him well. Alex undergoes another test, but this one very easy. He's just shown some images and is told to react as he would generally react. And apparently his reactions, although sinister-like, is exactly what they were hoping for. Alex, well, he's back. Sinister urges and evilness and all. And this leads us to the very last scene of the movie, which is a very powerful scene. It is so evil, so unpredictable that it just blows your mind. So this is the guy that conducted the experiments on poor Alex. And since then, since the media's got a hold of his story, they know that they were doing some evil doings to some innocent people. And, wow, the government's into question. The people of the town don't trust him anymore. They just don't like this guy. So what does he do to solve his little issue? Well, he goes to Alex, and he basically asks for forgiveness, and offers him a job, a well-paying job, a home, and basically all the help that he can possibly get. And what does he get out of it? Basically, the media will see that he's trying to help this poor man that was treated so poorly. And in other words, it just shows that he does have the people's best interests at heart and can be trustworthy. And I just love this scene too. Look at Alex here being all snobby like. He's chewing his food with his mouth open, just being an absolute snob. He also mentions that the poor guy in the wheelchair is now locked away somewhere, because he's basically the only one that can blow this case entirely open. With him gone, as far as the media is concerned, it's just one poor innocent man who was undergoing some horrible treatment to now getting the government support. So the movie ends with them shaking hands over the agreements. We've got the photographers in, taking photos, doing all of their journalist stuff. They even play the same music that would have drove Alex mad, just to prove that it no longer affects him in any way negative. But it seems that all this fame just suddenly unlocked his sinister urges once again. We see imagery of Alex having the good old in out with some random lady in front of a crowd of strangers. And we hear Alex mutter the most sinister sounding line to end a film ever. So simple, so spectacular. The final line is,
I was cured, all right.
I'm singing in the rain.
and there we go. That was A Clockwork Orange. After watching this movie, I can see why many people want this movie banned and why it is banned in many countries. But at the same time, I, in a weird way, can't help but love it. There are many scenes which I just hate, but the way other scenes were shot and filmed and the characters and the story is brilliant. Throughout the entire review, I asked you guys to think about some stuff. I asked you to picture yourself in a position like this, and how does this make you feel? And what I meant by that is that this movie is meant to make us think about who we as a person consider to be a monster in modern day society. So ask yourself, who do we believe is the monster in A Clockwork Orange? Are we like Jack, who for some sick reason have a craving and a thirst for causing others harm? Those others being innocent people who were just at the wrong place at the wrong time? Or are we like the homeless man, who, yes, was beaten up by 4 people for no logical reason at all, but as soon as the golden opportunity came around to get some revenge, we ordered 10 people to beat up 1 person. In other words, making someone else experience the same pain that we felt. Or are we the corrupt justice system who takes matters into our own hands? We abuse the badge that says that we are here to protect just for a means of control. Are we the doctors and nurses whose job it is to protect and save lives, but we can't help but fall for our primal instincts whenever the opportunity comes around? Are we the scientists who conduct illegal activities like torture just for the means of science and believe that that is a good enough reason to get away with it? Or are we the worst of them all, the evil government who can cover anything up that doesn't go their way, even going as far as locking up innocent lives just so the truth doesn't escape? As far as I'm concerned, we are all monsters. No matter what we do, others will view us as doing an evil thing. As long as we can truthfully tell ourselves that we know right from wrong and only act upon the right things, then as a society and as a species, we should be okay. There are many activities that we see in this movie that we know exist in real life that we can't ignore, but at the same time, many will stop us from even mentioning those things. And does that make us a monster for mentioning them or for ignoring them? That's up for you to decide. But at the end of the day, Clockwork Orange is a brilliant movie with some great scenes, great music, some great humor, I guess. Controversial humor, but still good humor. But it's a great movie nonetheless. Special shout out to my mate Elliot who helped me with the making of this video. He brought up some great points about it which I didn't even know about. And without his help, this video just wouldn't have been the same. He really did help and I feel better about myself with the points that he brought up. So thank you very much, Elliot, for your help. Thank you.